yeah, but that's not long.
You can take your mask off.
We won't be here long, and then we all leave when Dad starts talking, so don't worry. Probably be here about 5 minutes.
So we're predominantly starting on this camera to the left. Just look out more centrally. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Bridge Church online and in the building. If it's your first time, a really, really warm welcome to you. It's a bit cold here in church. I'm sorry about that, but a massive warm welcome to all of you, particularly if you're at home as well. My name is Jono.
And I'm Corrie. We're really glad to have you with us today, whether you are here or watching from home. So hello, good morning. I've worn my brightest jumper to try and make us feel a bit warmer.
It's working.
And it's great to have you with us for the next in our series on Rumours. And today we're going to be thinking about the subject of status. A little bit later on, we've got our leader of Bridge Church, Andy Buttress, coming to talk to us about status.
We do. Talking of status, Ipswich retained or got their status back of being top of the league. Woo! Come on, the town. A great 4-1 win yesterday. I know we've got a few other fans, possibly a Charlton fan in the room somewhere. There he is. No game for you boys, though. I think we were due to play you, actually, weren't we?
All right. Okay, moving on.
I think they were too scared to play us. All right, too scared.
One very happy Jono here this morning. And we're also very happy about the fact that we want to introduce to you this morning 2 new hosts of Life Stories. Now, we're not really going anywhere, but we're going to be sharing the hosting with our new hosts. You've probably met them before, seen them on screen, but we're excited to introduce you to this morning, Martha and Kieran.
Welcome.
Very exciting for us. So, can we just find out a little bit about you guys? Martha, if you want to go first, just tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, well, hi, I'm Martha, and I was supposed to be going to university this year as a student, but because of coronavirus, I've decided to stay at home, and I'm currently working as a teaching assistant at a primary school.
Excellent. Thank you. And Kieran?
Hello everyone, I'm Kieran. I just graduated university studying fine art, and I currently work at the YMCA.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So we thought we'd try and break the ice a little bit with them. Keeping on the theme of status, we are going to do the upstairs, downstairs game. Have you all heard of that?
No.
Okay.
This is a great little game. I don't know who invented it, but it's kind of Downton Abbey related. What you have to do, and this is what we're going to ask Kieran and Martha to do, is you think of the first name of your grandmother, combine it with the name of the primary school that you went to, and that name tells you whether, in the Downton Abbey times, you would have been upstairs or downstairs. So, for example, mine would be the name of my grandmother, Betty, and the primary school I went to, Fordham, Betty Fordham, I probably would have been downstairs. So, Kieran, do you want to go first?
Yeah, well, we have the same grandmother, but I'll extend it to Elizabeth. Sounds nicer. And Elizabeth Great Barton.
Oh,
sounds good. It sounds
Kieran would have been
good.
upstairs.
Yeah.
Lord Great Barton. And Martha?
Well, the lady who's like a grandma to me is called Peg, and the primary school I went to was Holbrook, so Peg Holbrook.
Peg Holbrook.
Ooh, I don't know.
It's a close one, that.
I think you could have been upstairs.
So you would have
Lady
been
Holbrook?
preparing their dinner.
Yes, I would. So there we go, status. We are going to be thinking a little bit more about status in Andy's talk as he comes to speak to us now. So if you're at home, grab your cuppa. If you've brought a cuppa with you, grab that.
Yes.
We're going to go and get ours as we listen to what Andy has got to say to us this morning.
Good morning. So are you upstairs or downstairs? Are you posh or not? I think I'm probably not. My grandmother was called Mabel, and I went to Soham Village College. So Mabel Soham. I don't know. I'm probably downstairs, serving maybe the butler. Anyway, we've always had, haven't we, in our society, class distinctions. We've had the upstairs, we've had the downstairs, we have in our society VIPs, very important persons, and we have, do we have VUPs, very unimportant persons? And if so, who are the very unimportant persons? Perhaps the VUPs, the very unimportant persons, are the migrants awaiting asylum. Maybe the homeless. Maybe those on benefits. Maybe that lonely elderly person in a care home. Maybe they are the VUPs, the very unimportant people. Contrast that with the VIPs, of course, and we have the footballer on £600,000 a week. We have the couple on the front of Hello magazine. We have celebrities on Strictly. And further afield, we have the person who has their own private jet, their own private medical team, their own private hospital, and they're giving a cocktail of drugs that no one else can really access. So yes, there are distinctions all over the place. And I don't know who it was that came up with the symbol for division. Whoever it was, they were absolutely brilliant at their job, because this symbol represents division. There's a dividing line in the middle with a dot on the top and a dot below. Upstairs, downstairs. Very important, not important at all, with that dividing line through it. And we talk about, don't we, in our society today, we talk about divisions. Yes, wealth, yes, class. We talk about the north-south divide. It's been on the news recently with coronavirus. We talk about lots of divisions, maybe racial divisions. We talk about them and we talk about us. So there are a whole host of divisions in our society. But this, of course, is nothing new whatsoever. So go back 2,000 years to Roman society, and you have a category of people called the slaves. There were thousands of slaves in Roman society. Probably foreigners, many, prisoners of war. So there were slaves and there were free. And you pick this up in a verse that you find in the New Testament, the second part of the Bible. So we read, "For all of you who are baptized into Christ have clothed yourselves with Christ. There is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male and female, for you are all one person in Christ Jesus." So note there the distinction between slave and free. But also note that here, the person that's writing this, Paul, is spreading rumours of a better world. He is projecting the idea of a new type of society, a society that was brought in by Jesus. Yes, it's future, but it's also come already in the person of Jesus. And in this society, division is replaced by equality. In this society, there is no slave nor free, Jew nor Gentile, male nor female. Here is an absolute equality. Wow, what does that kind of society look like? Well, whatever it looks like, Jesus wants us today to model it. So we have to have a clue as to what it does look like. What does this look like, this equality that Jesus is aiming for? This better world, this better society. How can we, as Jesus' followers, model that? There is a bishop by the name of Philip North. Okay, and he is in Burnley. And he has said these words. And remember that the Church of England, should be modelling this new society. He said in 2018 that there was a widespread perception that candidates from working class backgrounds with northern accents are victims of prejudice in the selection process to become a vicar. And a year earlier, he claimed that the church spent considerably less money per person in working class areas than in other areas, even saying, the poorer you are, the less we care about you. Wow. Now, when I trained to be a vicar 3 years ago, I was in a very middle, upper class institution called Durham University. And to be honest, the highlight of my year, or one of them, was to hear Philip North speak on this subject of discrimination, if you like, within the Church of England regarding rich and poor. He said some really tough things, but superb things as well. This should wake us up. Is there within the church some kind of prejudice between rich and poor? Because there shouldn't be. The society that Jesus is looking for with you and me within his church, is not one of division, but one of equality. Now, I've been impressed by reading an author by the name of Henri Nouwen. He was a Dutch university professor in the States, a very intelligent, very academic man. And he was also a priest. And in his 50s, he prayed a dangerous prayer which went something like, God, what do you want me to do with the rest of my life? And God said to him, I don't want you to be a university professor any longer. I want you to go and work in a community where there are people who have disabilities intellectually. I think that's the modern way of putting it. Disabilities intellectually. So he left his job as a university professor, and he went to work in this community. And he said that the first thing that struck me when I came to live in a house with mentally handicapped people, his writing a few years ago, was that their liking or disliking of me had absolutely nothing to do with any of the useful things I'd done up until then. Since nobody could read my books, they did not impress anyone. And since most of them never went to school, my 20 years at Notre Dame, Yale, and Harvard didn't mean a thing. So suddenly he was in this place where it was a complete level playing field. Yes, he was a priest, he retained that title, but he was no more superior than anybody else. He was on their level. He served them, they served him. Everybody was one person in that community. And so I was impressed by a guy who was willing to do that. And that is the kind of thing that we should be willing to do. Perhaps not literally, but we should have that kind of attitude. It's the attitude that matters. If we have an attitude where we're willing to talk with anybody, treat everybody the same, just be ourselves and just not worry about class or status or division, then we're getting somewhere. Because that was the attitude of Jesus. He would talk to anybody. And we read in the New Testament that Jesus, who, being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness, and being found in appearance as a man. He humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross. So, we have this adage that goes, birds of a feather flock together. And it's right, isn't it? Where have you ever seen a starling socializing with a rook, or a goose having a party with a seagull? It doesn't really happen. Birds of a feather do flock together. And it's the same with us as human beings. We do tend to flock together. And often you see this, and I was speaking to a school teacher last weekend, and she's possibly here this morning. She was saying that the school run, the school gate, is often where you see this happen, where parents flock together according to type and friendship group and even class. But that's not the sort of thing that should happen in this new society modelled in the church. We should not be a people who flock together according to our divisions. We should be people who come together according to our togetherness, our one person in Christ, our equality. So this is a challenge for all of us, isn't it? If we are a rook, then we should get together with a starling. If we are a goose, we should think about, having a party with whatever bird comes to mind. So let's be church that takes this subject of status and kind of dismantles it. Let us be a church who gets rid of division and replaces it with equality, because this is the new society that Jesus has in mind for us. For we are all one person in Christ Jesus.
Yeah, this morning we're really lucky to have Andy and Liz with us.
Thank you.
You might be wondering who they are. Well, hopefully they'll introduce themselves.
Great. So my name's Andy. I'm one of the pioneer developers for Inspiring Ipswich. So before lockdown, I was actually working at the back over there. If you look back that way, you see that desk that's really messy? That's definitely not my desk. Definitely someone else's in the team. So yeah, I've been working for Inspiring Ipswich. We moved to Ipswich a year ago for that job. Liz?
I'm Liz. I'm married to Andy, and I also work here at the diocese doing some admin.
I noticed you have a little bump, Liz.
Yes.
Yeah.
Baby is due in a month's time. A month today, so the 11th of November. We're very excited about that. And busy at the moment making preparations, which is a bit tricky with coronavirus. It's all a bit unknown about how much Andy will be able to be with me, for example, at the birth or visiting afterwards. And we also have a feeling we might be moving house on my due date or very close to it. So
All
it's fun
happens at
times.
So the big question is, are you upstairs or downstairs?
So I would be June Western Fable. That's a really word, is it? June Fable. Let's go for that.
Oh,
Would that be?
Yeah.
Upstairs, I'll take that. Yeah.
I would be Doreen Y.
Doreen Y.
We got downstairs. Strong point there.
Oh, well, the talk this morning was very thought-provoking. Would you like to share any thoughts or even experiences
Yeah.
on that?
It reminded me of, some of you may have heard this before, but the parable of the lighthouse. And the parable of the lighthouse is a parable about the church, and not the lighthouse, sorry, the lifeboats. It's a story that starts with a group of people who have lifeboats. They send them out, and they go rescue people. That's their job. And over time, they get more and more successful at doing this. And they start raising money, and they build a big clubhouse to go alongside the lifeboat rescue missions. And over time, the emphasis slides more and more towards the clubhouse. And in time, they have a big meeting, and they say, we need to raise some more money for the clubhouse because we're no longer able to sustain it anymore. And someone raises their hand and says, I think we need to get back to the boats. And I think there's an element of that in that church in England has become, at times, kind of like a middle-class club. And we probably need to move away from that and go back to getting out on the boats. So yeah, that's kind of what it reminded me of. And yeah, I think it was really, really great.
Did you have any thoughts, Liz?
So I guess I was reflecting a bit on my background, which is very white middle class, and it's something which I never really realised growing up. But now when I do go back home, it's something which really does strike me, I guess, having expanded my horizons and seeing how different people live in different places, and that not everybody had the upbringing that I did. So I think one of my, the things I was thinking about was before we moved to Ipswich, we were based in Oxford, where Andy was a youth worker. You might maybe talk about this a bit more. I don't know. I don't want to steal your words, but one of the groups he did as a youth worker was with a group of working class teenagers. And I helped out at that group towards the end of our time in Oxford, and just how rich that experience was. And I loved seeing the joy and life these young people had. And it was very different from my previous experiences.
That's great.
Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit about your faith journey?
Yeah, so I grew up in a Christian home, a Christian family, went to church a lot. And for me, a big part of my faith journey was my youth group in my teenage years. I had a little bit of a bumpy teenage journey, as most teenagers do. I had probably what I would now call mental health crises along the way, but at the time I just thought that was normal, and I didn't really seek help. Being a male, I kind of stuffed it up quite a lot, and stuffed it inside, even. But my youth worker was really key on that journey, and I had several moments where I kind of angrily prayed to God that I didn't want to have anything to do with God, and I kind of tried to walk away from it. And then I would find myself praying at different points, and I was like, well, there's something here that I can't walk away from. And actually, long story short, through a few kind of turns, I ended up becoming a youth worker and kind of wanting to work with young people and really explore what does church look like for young people and how it might look slightly differently to what I grew up with as well. So I'm really excited by what's happening here at Bridge and what you guys are trying to do. It's kind of a similar journey. So yeah.
Well, you work for Inspiring Ipswich.
Do.
I thought, do you want to share any thoughts on re-accessing mission in the church? And
Yeah.
how that works?
I think it's that so my job with Inspiring Ipswich is to encourage people to set up fresh expressions of church. So fresh expressions of church, yes, Donna's here. So fresh expressions of church are kind of, I guess for me, it's going back to that lifeboat story. It's getting back in the lifeboats and trying to connect with people who wouldn't come to church as it is or as it has been, and kind of growing church where they're at. So one of the things which maybe I'll let Liz talk about in a minute is we just started a fresh expression called Green Church, and we're trying to engage with people who are passionate about the environment, but maybe wouldn't come to church. That's our kind of our vision and our target audience, if you like. people who wouldn't come to church but have that passion for the earth. And we kind of think that's God's passion as well, and actually these people have that, and actually we want to connect those two dots together with them. So, yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, so while we're on the topic of Green Church, do you want to talk a little bit about that, Liz?
Sure. So, as Andy said, Green Church is our new monthly fresh expression. We started it last month, but we had a little practice run during the summer. So we meet outdoors once a month in St Margaret's Churchyard for a short service with a few differences. So we have a lot of discussion questions, we have a story and a short reflection, but I guess the thing which is most different is that we have what we call a nature-based activity, which forms the bulk of the service, where we send people off to Christchurch Park to do something which relates to the talk. I guess you could say that it was kind of based on Forest Church, if you've heard of that, which I guess is very similar to Forest School, for those of you who don't know that. And it's kind of looking at the outdoors and using that as a learning environment. So we're thinking about how nature can be a learning environment for us to learn about God. There's a group of Christians with more, I don't know, Celtic spirituality, I guess, which talks about creation being the second book of God. And so we really see that we can learn a lot about God from creation.
Oh, yeah. So that you mentioned your Forest Church. Do you have a session coming up? Another one? Do you want to mention that?
Yeah, so next Sunday, so a week today, 2:30 in the afternoon, our topic for next Sunday is Awaken. And we're going to be exploring the story of Moses and the burning bush, and about our experiences awakening to God, and also our experiences of awakening to the world around us in terms of caring for the environment. We're hoping to have a fire pit, so we're telling people to bring their own marshmallows.
Yeah.
So
Where is that, sorry?
St Margaret's Churchyard,
Oh, cool. And what time is that?
2:30 next Sunday.
Right, if you want to go.
Earlier you talked a little bit about youth work. Are you doing any youth work currently?
Yeah, I am. Not as much as I'd like to be, and the pandemic has been really difficult. In my job, I found that really, really challenging, actually, in terms of I want to get into some schools, but at the moment it's been really difficult. But I'm just about to start a Kintsugi Hope Wellbeing group in Chantry Academy. For those of you who haven't heard of Kintsugi Hope, it's kind of what it says on the tin. It's a wellbeing group, and this one's specifically for young people, encouraging young people to talk about their mental health and to support one another in that. So I'm really hoping that that's a way into that school, and looking at in the Chantry area, developing a youth fresh expression of church for young people, maybe based around food and a dinner church, something like that. But I feel like it's still in the really early stages of forming, and yeah, that's one of the areas. I'm also been helping out a little bit with the youth work with St Matthew's and Bridge, so there's a couple of them at the back there. I won't embarrass them too much, but yeah, I've been doing a little bit with them as well.
Yeah, is there anything else you want to touch on that we didn't say, or anything that we can pray for you in the church?
Be great. We'd love prayer from you guys for what we're trying to do with the Green Church and the Chantry as well. Is there anything you wanted to add?
Not particularly.
No.
No, those things I think are the
Yeah.
main things. And of course, baby as well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you
letting us
guys.
interview you. I hope, Green Church goes well.
Thank
and
you.
food is always a great way to get people involved. So
Yes.
see lots of us with marshmallows next week, I'm sure. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Really interesting to hear about your life stories, about what you're doing at the moment. You're doing some really great stuff. So thanks for sharing, and we'll definitely be praying for you.
Yeah, we certainly will be praying as a church. Sorry, I just had to wipe all the condensation off my glasses. These masks are a nuisance. But look, that wraps us up for the first part this morning. Thank you so much for joining us at home or in the building. Just to make you all aware, we have Alpha, our next Alpha course starting on
The 2nd of November. So if you haven't really been to church before, you've been a few times, and you've just got questions, things you'd like to talk about, this is such a great opportunity to do that. It's just a time to get together in a small little group and talk about questions of life, questions about things we talk about on a Sunday. It'd be really great to have you join if you want to. So you can sign up on our website or contact us through Facebook or Instagram.
Yeah, make sure you get in touch with us. We really hope and pray that you have a great week. We will be starting our second part of church this morning, Life Source, in sort of about 5 to 10 minutes' time. If you're at home and you feel like you want to come and join us next week, please do. You're more than welcome to. If not, we hope you have a great week.
We do indeed. And if you're at home and you live 2 minutes away, come and join us now. Why not?
Yeah.
But we will see you this time next week, and we will carry on with our time of Life Source in just a few minutes. So have a great week, everyone.